What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and our 2023 college football predictions continue for the 2023 college football season. Up next are the NC State Wolfpack, a team coming off a pretty up and down year last year in 2022. They went 8-5 overall last season. And you look at this team last year, they were kind of, off to a pretty good start, but then Devin Leary got hurt in the season, and that kind of ruined, NC State's chances of maybe going to an ACC championship perhaps. But Devin Leary is now gone. He entered the transfer portal. He is now transferred over to Kentucky. But you look at this team this year and heading into 2023, I think they're still going to be a pretty decent team. I don't think they're going to be up there in the top 15 like they were, over the years, but I think they're now kind of out of that top 15 conversation. But I think this is still a pretty good NC State team, top 25 team potential. You look at this roster, they have Brandon Armstrong coming in, the transfer from Virginia. He does have that experience coming from Virginia, so we'll see how good of a quarterback he's going to be. I think the strength of this NC State team will definitely be the running backs. They got plenty of group of running backs. They got some incredible duos back there on the backfield, so we'll see how good NC State's going to be pretty good this year. We'll see how good they're going to be. You look at the schedule this year for this NC State team. They'll play UConn on the road, Notre Dame and VMI, and Marshall in the non-conference. So, yeah, they got Notre Dame in the non-conference. That will be a tough one there. And then, obviously, UConn is a very interesting one to start out the year on the road. And you got the ACC schedule. They do play, of course, Clemson on the schedule. Then, of course, Miami. But they don't have to play Florida State on the schedule, which is the good news. But, again, there are no divisions in the ACC this year. That's what's the difference about the schedule this year for NC State. But let's go game by game now and give you an official prediction for this NC State team for 2023. So they start things off here on the road at UConn. I don't expect this to be an easy win here for NC State. I think UConn's going to be pretty much competing in this game. I think this is a pretty even matchup. I haven't really studied UConn that much over the season, but I think they're going to be definitely a pretty good group of five team. This is definitely a team that made it to a bowl game last year, and I kind of expect them to compete in this game, but I think overall NC State just has the better roster here and the overall talent. I don't think the passing game is going to get off to a pretty good start for NC State in this game, but I think their running game is going to help them out in this one. So at the end of the day, I think NC State gets a pretty close win over UConn. And remember last year, they had to play East Carolina, and that kind of really got to them as well. So NC State, I think they start out 1-0 with a win over UConn on the road. Then they play Notre Dame here on September the 9th. Big game here at home against Notre Dame. This is a potential win here for NC State, but you already saw my Notre Dame prediction video. I did predict the Fighting Irish to win this one. To be honest, because Devin Leary, with him not being at NC State, I think it's going to kind of hurt NC State's chances of, winning this one against Notre Dame. Plus, Notre Dame's got Sam Hartman coming in, the transfer from Wake Forest. I just think that overall talent on Notre Dame is going to really get to NC State, but I think they're going to compete, even though in the first half, I think they're going to compete in the first half perhaps, but second half, I think it's all the Fighting Irish in that second half, and I think they pull away in the second half. So I think NC State loses a game here at home against Notre Dame. I just think the talent is there for Notre Dame, but don't get me wrong, I think NC State will compete in this game, but I think second half Notre Dame will pull away. So I got NC State having their first loss of the season here at home against Notre Dame. Then it's VMI here. They'll take care of business in that game on September 16th. They have no business to lose that game, so I got them now improving to 2-1. Virginia on the road next year on September 22nd. This game will be on a Friday night, it seems like. And this is their first ACC matchup here on the road at Virginia. I don't expect a big challenge in this game for the Wolfpack. I mean, I know Brandon Armstrong, this will be a pretty emotional game for him returning to his former team school. So, yeah, it will be a pretty emotional game for Brandon Armstrong. But I think NC State has the better roster in this one. Plus, Virginia, I really don't expect to be all that good this year. They had a pretty tough season last year in 2022. I think NC State wins this one big here over Virginia. I think they get that win on the road at Virginia on September 22nd, and I got them improving to 3-1. Then they'll play another Friday night game here against Louisville here at home. This is a pretty interesting matchup when you look at both of these teams. They're pretty even in returning production, but the thing about the difference between these two teams is definitely Louisville, because they do have a transfer portal team. They got new faces on that roster, new head coaching staff and everything. How good is this Louisville team going to be? I think they're definitely a top 25 team, but NC State, I think, has the more experience in this game, and plus they're playing at home in this one. I think this game goes back and forth, but at the end of the day, I think NC State, with them being at home, I think they come out on top with the win over the Cardinals. It will be a close game, but I like NC State here in a close one over the Cardinals here on September 29th, and they take care of business here against Marshall on October the 7th, so I got them improving to 5-1. Next game on the road at Duke here on October 14th. Big game here. Rival game. You just never know what can happen here. So they're playing Duke here on the road. Very tough place to play. Well, not very a tough place to play. It's not really about, how tough it is to play there. It's just about the returning production for Duke. Duke is going to be a pretty good team. They're going to be definitely a top 25 team. I've kind of been ranking them in my top 25 in post-spring and early top 25 rankings. This team just has a lot of production coming back. I think this game goes back and forth. It's kind of similar to the Louisville game, but this time it is on the road for NC State, with it being a road game and a 50-50 game, tough one to call. I'm going to go with the upset here. If NC State was ranked in the top 15 by this point, I think Duke pulls off the upset. So I'm going with the Blue Devils here to knock off NC State here on October the 14th, and that puts NC State's record at 5-2. They get a bye week after that game before playing Clemson at home, and a pretty good spot for a bye week if you're NC State, but if you already saw my Clemson prediction video, I already predicted Clemson to win this game, because I think this is going to be a different NC State team. I really don't expect them to be the same passing attack team like they used to be with Devin Leary. I know Brandon Armstrong has experience, but Clemson, I think their defense will be ready for this one. And plus the bye week, I really think it helps out them to have a close matchup here with Clemson, but end of the day, though, I think Clemson is just way too talented. I know NC State did it a couple years ago at home, but this time with Devin Leary gone, I just think it will be a tough one here for NC State to win. So with that being said, I'm going to go with Clemson here, giving NC State their third loss of the season. So I got the Wolfpack now falling to 5-3. 2 straight losses for the Wolfpack, but then they get to the month of November. They'll play Miami here at home on November 4th. And this is a pretty interesting game. I already predicted this one here, and I already picked Miami to, lose this game. I predicted NC State to win this one. The reason why, after a loss to Clemson, I think NC State is fired up after that loss to Clemson. They're desperate for a win at this point. They're on a 2-game losing streak. And I think they're going to come in here fired up over Miami, and plus Miami is probably sitting there in the college football playoff rankings, maybe in the top 10, and it's just one of those upset alert type games. With that being said, I think NC State pulls off a huge upset here over Miami, and that improves moves their record to 6-3. It will be a close game, but I think NC State wins it at the end of the day with home field advantage. Then they play Wake Forest next here on the road on November the 11th. And these two teams are kind of similar. They both lost their quarterbacks due to the transfer portal. Wake Forest lost Sam Hartman. He's gone to Notre Dame. And then you got, of course, with Devin Leary, he's gone to Kentucky. So both of these teams are really similar, in returning production and definitely on both sides of the football. I think NC State wants to run the football in this game, but the passing game, I think, is going to be the kind of struggle in this game for NC State. And then, obviously, Wake Forest, they're going to kind of want to pass the football. This game is going to be definitely a high-scoring game. I think it's kind of similar to the Louisville game and obviously the Duke game. Maybe perhaps the Clemson game. I think Clemson will be a short-scoring game, but home field advantage does favor the Demon Dinkins in this one. With that being said, I think Wake Forest gets the win here over NC State and gives NC State their 4th loss of the season. So, yeah, I like them. I like the Demon Deacons here in a close one. Like I said, home field advantage does play Wake Forest here in the favor. So with that being said, I think NC State loses a close one on the road at Wake Forest. Then they'll play Virginia Tech here on the road next. So you got back-to-back road games here with Wake Forest and Virginia Tech. Not a tough back-to-back road games here for NC State. Virginia Tech is kind of similar to Virginia. I kind of don't expect this Virginia Tech team to be all that good this year. Even though if they try to make a jump this year, I just don't really expect this team to be all that good. I just don't know how good this Virginia Tech team is going to be after a pretty bad season last year. So that being said, I think NC State gets a win here over Virginia Tech. They take care of business in that game, and I got them now improving to 7-4 on the year. Then they'll play North Carolina here to end things out on November 25th. The rival game, you just never know what can happen between these two teams. Obviously, North Carolina is going to be a pretty good team this year. They're definitely going to want to run the table in the ACC. You got Drake May coming back at quarterback. Definitely a really good high-powered offense for the Tar Heels, but this is a rival game. You never know what can happen. It's obviously a revenge game here for the Tar Heels. Last year, NC State defeated North Carolina on the road, and that kind of really shocked me. I did predict North Carolina to win that game, but I think both of these teams are pretty even when it comes to this rivalry game. With that being said, though, home field advantage does play the difference here. I already predicted North Carolina's record, and I already predicted, NC State to win this one. I'm still going to pick NC State to win this one just because it's one of those upset alert type games, and I think NC State gets a pretty good win over North Carolina here in a close shootout type ball game. So I got the Wolfpack finishing 2023 with an overall record of 8-4 for the 2023 season. I think that's a fair prediction for NC State. Maybe Notre Dame, they could probably win that game. You never know, they could probably go 9-3 perhaps, but I think they can probably beat Clemson. It wouldn't really shock me if NC State did go 10-2 if they did win those home games against Clemson and Notre Dame, but I think 8-4 is a fair prediction for NC State just because of the loss to Devin Leary. I think it's going to kind of hurt them a little bit, but I think this team could still make it to a bowl game. I think they're well-talented enough to make it to a bowl game still, so I got NC State finishing 8-4 for 2023. Let me guys know what you think about this NC State team. What do you think their record is for 2023? And stay tuned here for more sports content videos on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.